And so we have an unrelenting crisis on our hands, one that shames our society and tests the very core of our humanity, femicide. The brutal, chaotic murder of Salome Adaidu and sent shockwaves across the nation, marking another case of crimes against women, femicide. Listen, this is not just about Salome Adaidu, though her name echoes painfully in our hearts. It's about Christiana Idowu, Damilola Oluwoyu, Ogechukwu Okafor, and countless other women whose lives were snuffed out by the toxic engagement of violence, impunity, and patriarchal silence. Salome is a 24-year-old NYC member. She had dreams, aspirations, and a future, like every single one of us. But her life was brutally stolen, and her story has now been reduced to another statistics in the grim ledger of femicide in Nigeria, and another sensationalized story on social media. Her family's grief is a haunting reminder of the failure of our systems, our leaderships, our laws, and yes, our collective conscience, us. Christiana Idowu was a young student that was betrayed and murdered by someone she called a friend. Her killer, a man already accused of taking other lives, walked among us, a stark testament to the ineffectiveness of our justice system. How many more must suffer before we confront this rot? And then there's Damilola Oluwoyu, a 19-year-old whose life ended in a gruesome, ritualistic killing. Or Ogechukwu Okafor, that was stabbed to death by her husband, a pastor, someone who should have been her protector. At least he swore to do that on the vows of their wedding day. These are not isolated incidents. These are the dark reflections of our society that has been normalized, the devaluation of women's lives. Now, let's not delude ourselves. Femicide is not just an act of violence. It is the culmination of a system that thrives on gender inequality, a system that allows perpetrators to act with impunity while women live in fear. And these are not private matters. This is a national emergency. Yes, I called it. In September alone of 2024, 9 cases of femicide were reported across Nigeria. 9 women brutally murdered. These are the cases we know about that was reported, and we know that cases of violence against women are underreported. How many other are buried? They remain buried under the weight of silence, of fear, and most importantly, systemic failure. Now, the United Nations reminds us that Sustainable Development Goal 5, which is gender equality, remains a distant dream. And yet, gender equality is not just a goal, it's a fundamental right, the foundation of a just and thriving society. But how can we claim to pursue progress when our women are neither safe in their homes or in streets or in churches or with their husbands? And so, leaders of this nation, I ask you, where is your outrage? Where is your commitment to justice? You swore to protect every Nigerian, including women, yet half of the population lives under siege. I have to be the one to tell you. Governor Abdullahi Sule, good morning, sir. Have you visited the family, seeing that this happened in your state? And by family, I mean the family of Salome Adaidu. The Minister of the FEC, Honorable Nyoso Wike, good morning, sir. Sir, have you paid condolences to the family of this victim, seeing that the victim was serving in your state, your jurisdiction, as mandated by the government? She was still under, as they call it, government Pekin. So let's be clear, this is not about political rhetoric or hollow promises. It is about creating systems that work, laws that are enforced, and a society that refuses to condone violence in any form. And I know what you're about to say, because the society, I'm coming to you next. Oh, the story is pretty much about, oh, she cheated. There is no crime on the face of the planet that deserves to be beheaded in the 21st century. No crime. And so to the society at large, I must say to you, silence is complacency. When we turn a blind eye, when we normalize abuse, when we dismiss cries for help, we become accomplices to this horror. And change begins with each and every one of us by challenging harmful cultural norms, educating our children, our girls and boys, supporting survivors, and holding the perpetrators accountable, not letting them get away. The police are looking at you. But let us be clear, awareness alone is not enough. Outrage, like this I'm doing here, without action is empty. So we need policies that actually work. We need a robust judicial system that ensures swift and certain punishment for offenders. No questions asked. We need shelters, we need counseling, we need resources for survivors, and we need every citizen to demand these changes. And as we step into a new year, let this not just be another tragedy that we are going to continue to mourn. Let Salome Adaidu's name ignite a movement that says enough is enough. Let Christiana, Damilola, Ogechukwu, and all the unnamed victims remind us of what's at stake. Women must not continue to live as prey in a society that claims to value lives. And to the perpetrators, the killers who walk freely, to the enablers of this violence, I have to tell you this, your time is up. We have to not rest. We will not rest. We will not be silenced. Justice will come, and it will speak louder than the violence you have sown. And to all my women who fear for their safety, to every girl who dreams of a better future, know this, you're not alone. Your fight is our fight, and together we will build a Nigeria where women are not just survivors, but thrivers, where they live not in fear, but in freedom. Let us turn our outrage into action. Let us demand better leadership, better laws, and better systems, because every life lost to femicide is a stain on our humanity, and we cannot afford to let another drop spill. And so justice for Salome, and justice for all. And we're about to do justice here on Breakfast Extra as my incomparable co-host, Mudashiru Obasa, is on standby. I'm about to give you a swell show. Mudashiru, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Judith. A very interesting one there on the, late Salome there. I was thinking that was it. That was going to be what you were going to talk about today, and I'm glad that it was.
You know me, I love women. Anything to champion the women cause, I'm ready and I'm set to go. Hey, you at home, get out of bed. Come join us. It's time for Breakfast Extra. Good morning.
And you're welcome. Saturday edition here for Breakfast Extra. But of course, how we get started today with our very first big report. Now, this segment, of course, you know, is where we delve deeper into the stories that are shaping our lives and that have made, well, headlines during the week and that we brought to you here on News Central. Today, we turn to a heart-wrenching story that has gripped the, Papalada community located at the boundary between Nasarawa State and the federal capital. The alleged ritual murder of Salome Adaidu, a 24-year-old woman from Nyanya, Abuja, as she left her family and also community in shock and disbelief. Now, our reporter Amadin Uyi has been following the tragic story closely, speaking with residents, community leaders, and authorities to bring us the full picture. We do have our reporter here, News Central correspondent Amadin Uyi. Amadin, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Amadin.
Manzino.
Indeed. And of course, Judith is here. You have to say good morning to Judith.
Amadin, don't worry. You're going to be fined. Amadin, a very good morning to you. And we saw your report. I must say, well done. There were so many moments out of that report that really struck me. I will definitely bring the report in due. I've just been informed that we're about to play that report. So to our viewers, take a look at this report. But very importantly, pay attention to all the respondents who are residents and of that community and what they had to say about the perpetrator of this crime. Take a look.
24-year-old Salome Adaidu, a 7-youth couple with the National Youth Service Corps in Abuja, was hoping to finish our one-year mandatory service in March. However, on Sunday, January the 15th, A severed head of Salome was found with TikToker Timi Ajayi. Her sister says the news of her death is still hard to believe.
Someone called me on the road that my sister is in Uke. We're not like, okay, what is she doing there? Please, is there any information? Sir, please, can you give me any information about my sister? The man was like, no, he cannot give me any information about my sister. I have to come to the general hospital in Uke to come and meet my sister. I said, okay, I'm coming. When I got to Uke, I saw my sister dismembered on the floor. My sister, they told us to come and identify the body. We came, we saw my sister lying down on the floor, her hand, her legs, everything separated from her body. We now asked what happened. They now said a guy, her boyfriend, picked her up. Her boyfriend killed her in his house and was taking her head, only the head, to Nasarawa State.
News Central tried to locate the residence of the suspected ritual murderer to hear firsthand what happened and to get to speak to those who had met him one-on-one before the incident. Some say the episode remains a shock.
We got to see that there are some parts of human being sack, back, 7 back. The bones different, the flesh different, the head different. They cut it like 2 places here, divided it everywhere. So that was what we saw on Sunday here in Papalada. And right now, many people are scared.
I never see a man with this guy. It's different girls every day. Sometimes when we sit down, I listen, they ask some bar people, say me them find girl for them. I hear them with my ear when we dey for bar. So you normally deal with girls. This is what I know. You normally deal with girls. I never see them with a man for my lifestyle.
In the whole Papalana, the morale of people is down. People are mourning. People are mourning in this community because it's just like even worse than a dream. It's what people could not believe.
The family of Salome, however, expressed displeasure at the way and manner the police have handled the case.
We are not satisfied with what the Nigerian police are doing just yet. I am not satisfied. I don't think anybody here is satisfied. They've not asked the family to write statements. They've not told the family anything about the guy, what he does, where he picked her from. I think these are basic questions that need to be asked.
All we just know is that we need to know information about my sister and we need justice.
While the Nasarawa State Police Command are yet to speak on the matter, the family of Salome are calling for justice for their daughter. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Joining us now is our Chief of Abuja Bureau, Amadine Uyi. Amadine, thank you so much for that report. I mean, your report just paints a picture of a community that's in shock. And just hearing the submission from all the respondents in your Vox Pop there, it's very saddening, and also their families. So let's set the record straight. There are 2 stories that are out there. One is a story of a lover who found that his girlfriend cheated on him, hence the confession that we've seen that has circulated on social media by the alleged perpetrator of this crime, saying that she cheated on him, and there are pictures of he saw on his phone, proof of it on her phone that forced him to kill her. And now there's also other statements from her family saying that this is a stranger, they don't know who he is, and she just got into his vehicle or his keke and he killed her. Let's set the record straight. What is the truth, or what do you know from speaking to the families? We're trying to fix Amadine's audio there. I was just asking him about the conflicting accounts that we've heard on social media. There's one report where we saw from another television station that was interviewing him, the alleged perpetrator of this crime, Timilei, who was saying that he killed her, Salome, because she's his girlfriend, and that she cheated on him, and he found evidence of this on her phone, and so he took her life. Now, the families also said that this is not the case, and they don't know who the gentleman is, but this is a very sad situation, and sends shock wave all around.
Absolutely. While we're still trying to fix our connection with Amadine, who is all the way in Abuja there, it's very interesting that there's another angle to look at this from him, which is the extent to which the police has endeavored when it comes to finding out who exactly the perpetrator was. We have him in custody, they say, but what exactly, or have there been other instances Was this the first time, second time? Information seems to be scarce. But that I do understand that perhaps maybe during the course of investigation, they might not want to put out too much.
I understand as well.
But like for the family, like you heard the sister say, they're really worried about the fact that they know nothing about what's happening.
Right. And also what's very concerning is there was a statement from one of the residents in that community that said they'd never seen him with a guy, but only with women. Imagine, I understand we have your audio now.
Okay, Judith, first of all, I will advise a viewer description because I'll be painting some very graphic details and from what we got on the field. Now, the story broke out last week, Sunday. He was apprehended on Sunday. And so, as is our custom in New Central, we wanted to really get to the details of the matter. So we commenced our investigation. The Abidjan Bureau commenced our investigation, and first of all, on Sunday night, on Monday night, we were able to locate the residence of the victim. She's from a family of 6, 5 sisters and 1 brother. She's a 7-youth copper who is meant to pass out in March. 24-year-old, as you said, Salome Adaidu. We spoke to our neighbors and we realized that she's the type of lady who is on the quiet side. Not much friends, not known to be the outing type, just kept to herself and her family knows most of her friends. So when this story broke out, they were first shocked because they had never known this young man with her. So the family suspected that she was abducted because on Saturday, before she left the house, she told them she was going to see a friend who was well known to every member of the family. But just as the sister said, on Sunday they were called by the police that their sister had an accident. So after speaking to the family, we knew that there was a need to unearth the character and the character of this young man. So we began investigating to locate his house. First of all, we were told that he lives at the Orozo area of Abuja, a satellite community at the boundary between Abuja and Nasarawa State. We located the residence where many felt he lived, but we found out that it happened to be his family house, where his parents lived. In fact, the neighbors, when they saw us, they were hostile because they said that the parents had disowned the young man several years ago. So we knew that we had to locate his exact location. That was what took us to the Papalada community. And when we got to the Papalada community, we located his house. But the house had been locked because the neighbors had run away. So we decided to speak to neighbors, people living along the street, to tell us about the young man. And the stories they told us was shocking. That is why I first said at the beginning that a viewer discretion is advised. The neighbors are believing from what they saw that he also engages in some sort of cannibalism. Because when the police broke his room open in the presence of all the neighbors, a lot of people on the streets, some parts of the dismembered lady were removed from a pot. And that part, he had already separated the skin, separated the bone. So the neighbor said that if he was not interested in eating the flesh, then why will he go along to do that?
Imagine, this is a very shocking incident, right? Imagine, you also spoke to community members, right? We saw from that respondents in your Vox Pop there, one of them saying that...
Imagine, just a second. We're being asked if you had more to tell. If you can continue, we would like you to. Was that all you discovered? Were there other information regarding this young man at the residence? I think we have a problem with Amadin. Amadin, can you hear us? Okay, we're going to try and reestablish a communication with Amadin, but unfortunately, those were really, and that warning from the beginning was actually very, very relevant.
Very necessary.
That was quite a harrowing tale that he told there regarding the preparation of, I don't know, it's just, that got me. That really got me.
We're going to try to establish audio with Amadin Uyi to just give us more insight on this. I mean, I must also imagine what his mindset and his mind frame or state of mind must be like, being able to go through all of that experience, the entirety of this week following this report, and also speaking to the family.
Okay.
Amadin, we understand that you're with us now. You warned viewers discretion is advised, but you also made mention of the neighbors of this young man in the Papalada community. What was their account of him like?
Okay, just like I said, the neighbors said that some part of the dismembered lady, that they were there, it was in full view of the entire street, the community and the police. The police had to retrieve those parts from a cooking pot. I remember, Judith, earlier on you talked about falsehood. The young man in the video, he gave a neighboring TV station, said that he submitted himself to the police. That was a big lie. In fact, the account was that they had seen him with her on Saturday. They said that the bags where her parts were retrieved, both of them went to buy those bags together, the bako sack. In the morning when he was apprehended, he had taken a bike with only her head to an unknown destination. It was the bike rider who asked him, "Why is blood dripping from your bag? And why are there so many flies?" And he told the bike rider that he had purchased meat he was going to give somebody. It was the bike rider kept quiet, and when he got to a place where there were other bike riders, there was some sort of, there were people. He now parked his bike and called everybody and said, "Please come and ask this young man what is in this bag." As he was being interrogated by bike riders, he turned and fled, of which they chased him, caught him, opened the bag and saw a human head and began to beat him. He was beaten almost to death. If you had seen the videos circulating of that incident, you would find out that his account of the incident was totally different from that he later gave a TV station. So number one, it should be established that he did not submit himself. Number two, saying that he had a relationship with the girl, which we are not in a position to confirm, and that she was cheating on him, that's why he killed her, is very questionable. The question that he should be asked is, why did he take the pain to dismember her body into pieces? Then the pieces found in the pot, he has separated the bone and peeled off the skin, so that if it is cooked, nobody would even know it was human flesh. So there are so many questions that the police needs to uncover and tell Nigerians concerning that young man. At a point we were hoping, because there were rumors circulating that he had died from the beating, but for the fact that he later gave an interview somewhere in Lafia, the capital of Nasarawa State, maybe at the police command headquarters, that means he's alive and healthy. And Judith, we went ahead to investigate, to even investigate his place of work. We realized that on the 3rd of January, he was relieved of his job. He was working not very far from this place, just less than 5 minutes at a boarding school. And the school management relieved him of his job on the 3rd of January. because they said he had character issues. They started seeing him in some kind of chatting with the female boarders. The school management said that he would ask female teachers out for a relationship, and when they refused, he would be very hostile to them. The school management could not take it. He had been warned on several occasions. So on the 3rd of January, he was relieved of his job. But his neighbors even confirmed it. The boys on the street, they said that he had no single friend on the street, that only female friends. And he was more like a Casanova or a playboy in what we call in Nigeria parlance. You will see him with different girls, sometimes more than 2 girls in a day. As one was leaving his house, I'm quoting the neighbors, another one is entering. So they should also investigate the whereabouts of those girls to be sure that none of them is missing. He did not have a friend, a male friend on the street. He only related to everybody on a high basis. So there's so much about this young man and so much about this incident. A lot of questions that are still unanswered. Who was he taking that severed head to? Because from information the neighbors suspected. Let me say this before you add Manzino. They said on Saturday night they observed that he put on his speakers very loud. The neighbors suspected that that was when he did the operation late Saturday evening. That he has 2 speakers. He puts one at the kitchen, he put the other at the window, and the music volume was very loud. They were even bothered, but they said that is how he does sometimes. They suspected that it was late Saturday evening he had murdered Salome. Then who was he taking the dismembered head to on Sunday morning? And left the other part of her body in his room.
Well, Ahmadin, it is very unfortunate that we can't continue with plenty of questions, but there are questions that need to be answered, just as you have stated, especially with the Nigerian police and the investigations that should be started. I'm sure that they have. I'm really shocked by the amount of information that you've brought us this morning, with everything that you have investigated. But we will definitely continue this conversation by 10 o'clock today. So Ahmadin, please, if you will, please be ready for us by 10, and I'm asking the viewers to join us then as well, because we have so many questions that we need to get off our chest. But until then, let's put a cap on it for now, and we'll be back to that inside the 10 o'clock hour.
Thank you so much, Ahmadin. And this just underscores our need for proper investigation in issues like this. Our heart goes out to the family and to the communities and, of course, the friends of Salome. We'll have this discussion later on at 9 o'clock. We'll be looking at the crimes against women. But in the meantime, we'll switch gears to bring you talks of politics. And this time, it's Lagos speaker that's been impeached, and that is Mudashiru Obasa. After the break.
Welcome back, and it's our first big story this morning. This is where we break down the most impactful developments shaping our political landscape. And of course, today that's what we're doing. In Lagos State, a dramatic twist unfolded as a long-serving Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, was impeached in an emergency session by 32 lawmakers. Now, his ouster, amidst accusations of corruption, poor leadership, and insubordination, marks a systemic shift in Lagos politics. Now, Obasa, who had served as Speaker since 2015, was replaced by his deputy, Honorable Mojisola Miranda, making history as Lagos State's first female Speaker. This change comes amidst allegations of mismanagement, strained relationships with Governor Sanwo-Olu, and also growing ambition within the state's political structure.
Interesting times. And so joining us this morning to unpack the implications of this political earthquake are 2 APC members from Lagos State Chapter. we have Honorable Ni Rahim, is a House of Representative candidate and for Agege during the last election cycle, and he joins us here. Also, Honorable Fatima Mohammed Bashir, she's an APC stalwart from Ifako Ichaye. Gentleman and lady, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us here this morning.
Thank you for coming in so nice and early. And I wanted to start by asking you the very first question. So how do you feel now that it's a Lagos State Speaker and she's female?
I'm excited.
Did we catch that reaction?
Oh, yes, I'm excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah,
I'm excited because, I say it all the time that Lagos is usually first in a lot of things, all right? And so the 35% affirmative action is in place, is working in Lagos.
That's fantastic.
So now I am convinced beyond every shadow of doubt that we're getting close to having the first female governor in Lagos. We're getting close to having first of everything from Lagos and in Lagos. So
this is the attitude for me.
I love it. I love the excitement, without a question of a doubt. But I'm sad that I am not sad. I'm just indifferent about how this emerged. Do you get what I mean? I wish that this emerged a completely different way, that the voters actually went in there and there was cast and this was done in a way where it wasn't an impeachment for her to get it. Not saying that she's not deserving, because the thing about voter behavior and the voter pattern we've seen is that the inclusion of women in politics, whether at the state level, at local level, when it comes to the representatives, House and the Assembly, is that it's dwindling over time. Yes. So I just wish that this was voted in, and and she was. That's what I'm saying.
Judith, I quite understand what you're saying, but the truth is, just like the former speaker was voted in by the electorate.
She was voted in,
by the electorate.
Exactly.
So whether she came in through, the former speaker being impeached or she went in, the thing is, the electorate do not have the power
to make who speaker and deputy speaker as the House.
The processes with which she came in is perfect.
Yeah. So that means it's perfect, no questions asked. So that means I wish that the next members then don't put a speaker as a deputy speaker as women. I hope that this will now, maybe with her tenure, they can now be able to say, okay, there's a woman who's done this, we're appointing her to be speaker.
Knowing who she is, she's very forthright, she's dogged, she's dedicated. So I know that they would voluntarily elect her again.
Okay, but now let's refocus now.
Let's refocus now to the impeachment of Honorable Obasa. It has taken many people by surprise. We all woke up one morning and we saw the news. It was shocking, breaking news. There was what's going on? But I have to ask, and I'm coming to you, Honorable Hakeem. From your perspective, what does this signal about the state internal politics in Lagos State? And let's bear in mind, this happened during an emergency meeting, emergency session where he was impeached. A lot of people seem to be happy about, or they seem to be satisfied by it. And it's such a unanimous move for him to just be removed immediately. And there's been questions about, the state of Lagos State's politics, your take.
Well, the Speaker was elected by the members of the House of Assembly, and it is in their right, because they choose their own leader at the end of the day. So they can always remove anybody that they find you worthy, that you can lead them. And when they find you unworthy, you have to quit the thing too.
And let me ask you about this. They said Obasa faced serious allegations of corruption and poor leadership. So do you believe this changes are a reflection of accountability do you see us steering into a place of accountability and transparency in Lagos State?
Oh yes, I see, like I said to you, I see the face of an emergence of accountability in Lagos State, because, judging from what the legislature said, I am not a legislator, I'm not in the House, so from what they said, they have said that high-handedness and all of that, gross misconduct, mismanagement of funds. For them, I think they are beginning to look at themselves as accountable to the electorate that elected them for them to represent. And so they are saying enough of us being, I'm tired, enough of us, just coming to the office with a lot of fear. We're not sure what would happen. You have to be in the Speaker's good books, like I heard, to be, one of the top people in the House. So if you're not in his good books, or you're not one of those supposedly loyal to him. And that's not what politics should be.
Let's talk about this good book thing, because I've heard it many times when it comes to politics, especially when it comes to politics in Lagos. There's a certain good book everybody keeps that you have to be in. Let's talk about the relationship between him and the governor, Sanwo-Olu. We heard that there were strained relationships, whether over style of governance or disagreements over different things like that. I don't know whether the governor has a good book as well. I don't know how much of a factor this was or that played regarding his impeachment. Honorable Nee, this strained relationship, this good book factor, did it have any part to play in his impeachment?
I will not necessarily say that. I think there were certain things that preceded his impeachment. And Obasa himself practically shot himself in the foot.
When exactly? Why exactly? What instance?
At the budget presentation by the governor, we heard allegedly, because I was not there, that he kept the governor waiting like 3 hours before he could even present his budget. And I will recall from what I saw on TV, you see the lawmakers, all of them coming in sunshade and this and the speech that he laid out before the presentation was, for me, totally unnecessary. It was not needed.
Bit of that script did you find irritating?
Him saying people are insinuating that he want to be the governor and this. It was not the forum for that. It was, I don't know.
Misplaced.
It was misplaced because, and that is always the thing that I said, leaders should put people around them that can look them straight in the eyes and speak truth to power. Like, look, this speech is not necessary. What it is? But a lot of leaders like that, they put people around them that will always say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, and carry their bag. The speech was unnecessary. And that was what breaks the Kame's back. It's so, I mean, saying, well, nobody is not too young to run, and the people who have been governor before him, they are not better than him.
So did it seem like as if he had a hint that there was such a thing that might be coming? No, I need to know, Honorable Fatima, do you think that he already had that hint?
For you to be a politician, you would see signs. You would know that something is amiss. You might not particularly be able to, place your hand on what it is at that moment, but you will know that there's something not right. That is something not right in the house. And, I really would not say that he was impeached based on the fact that he was rude to the governor, or maybe based on the fact that he didn't have, a very rosy relationship with the governor. The thing is, I cannot ascertain that. I can't ascertain that. In politics, there are no permanent friends and there are no permanent enemies. That much I know. And you really cannot be friends with anybody. You just have a job to do. Go and do your job. You don't even have to be acquaintances. There's a role designated to you. Just perform that role.
Sometimes when we get so carried away by our roles and we forget, sometimes we color outside of the lines in trying to achieve.
Judy, the problem is when you put a round peg in a square hole, the power absolutely corrupts them, especially when they are undeserving of that rule.
Which now takes me, this undeserving, we're going to come to that, but I have to ask you a question.
Yes.
There have been talks, whether it's critics or, on social media, about federal might, and that familiar ties with the federal might, and putting all of this in air quotes, a familiar tie with federal might is being primed to run as governor of Lagos State. This is the conversation that we're seeing. Also, another narrative that is going simultaneously with this alleged strained relationship between the governor and the speaker. And they are saying that Honorable Obasa also has intentions of running as well for governorship. And so this is just one step closer to take him out and make sure that the familiar ties runs unopposed.
Well, just like you've said that it's on social media and all of that.
So not just social
media. Believe anything on social media. Well, okay, so getting very serious. I beg to disagree because there were grounds for his impeachment. And I'm sure that a lot of people have plans to run for 2027 elections. It couldn't have been only him. I'm sure that usually during gubernatorial elections, you have about 30, 25, 20 people coming out to run. So this supposed federal might, are they going to be using it to clamp everybody down from running? No, so I do not agree with that narrative. The legislators have come out to say that we're impeaching him based on this and this and this. They were clear. So rather than go into joining issues with what social media is saying, I would rather take on what the legislators have said and then look at it decisively. Did he deserve to be impeached based on gross misconduct? Yes. Did he deserve to be impeached based on mismanagement of funds? Oh, yes.
But Honorable Fatima,
very vague management of funds, very vague
specifics?
allegations.
You think it's vague because you do not have the details.
Give us
You're
a stalwart of APC.
Yes, I am a stalwart, but I do not have access to the details. The legislators who impeached him have details that we all do not have. So for them to have come up with this reasons for impeaching him, I know that they do know the law. They are lawmakers. Okay. They know that you cannot accuse somebody without proofs. So I'm sure that they have some details with which he was clamped down.
Lagos State is it? Go ahead, Mr.
All right, if you allow me, Honorable Nee, it's still going to be regarding these details, but only this time from the aspect of communication. Are we going to be hearing from the APC especially about the details of what he might have mismanaged? Do you suggest that it be put out there so that people would know exactly what? Because when it comes to accountability, I mean, yes, that happened, and we know that you're trying to make steadfast the legislature and all of that. However, let's know what it was he was being impeached for. Do you think that this is going to happen, that we're going to be let know exactly what the details are?
I think when we get to the bridge, we will cross it. It's going to be, there are a lot of rumors.
Yeah, and rumors will affect people's perception of the party.
I will not, something that is going to be a case, probably it will end in a court. So I cannot really prejudice that.
You don't think the rumors will affect?
No, it won't affect anything. The reason is because there are people who have accused him. So we have the accusers and the accused. I hear the accused is not in the country at the moment. So I think the most honorable thing to do is for the accused to come to the country, come back to the country, and then face the music. The legislators have said you have done this. Accused, come and defend yourself. So it's in that instance that we would eventually get details of what has been accused.
I have a twofold question. I know Matthew, your producer, is going to kill me, but so here's it. You said something. You said we should be careful in putting square pegs into a round hole. You said that, and then you said it was deservedly that he
undeserving.
It was undeserving of the role, and he deserved to be impeached. That's very strong statement.
Well, it is a strong statement.
What prompted that?
Thank you very much. The reason why I said
it's
that...
not twofold. Can you see, Matthew?
Yes. The reason why I said that is that sometimes you look at people's antecedents. Who is this person? This person's personality. How has it fared? What are the things that he has done that has proven that, he's got integrity? That you can look at him and say, oh, he's dignified enough to be able to handle the house. So
then why make him a speaker then? Why then did we get him there?
See, that's the thing. Politics is not your usual banking thing. It's not your usual medical practice thing. It's not. Politics is totally different. Politics is about governance. It's about service to the electorate, the common man. So you don't particularly have a choice. Sometimes when you have a lot of people and then you're looking at the person who is most outspoken, the person who sometimes is more violent, and then you just want to step back. This person is violent. This person seems like, he has, held us somehow, the jugular by the jugular, and we don't seem to be able to do anything about it. If you look at it, he wasn't supposed to return as speaker. Everybody who contested with him for speakership, he ensured that their lives were practically almost shut down.
That's detail we're looking for.
It's detail. So I'm saying that
but what did he do?
Oh my God, he stifles them beyond measures.
Okay.
And that's the truth. And you can get to speak to them. These people are, you would see that some of them have started speaking up.
Names?
They're coming into
names.
I'm not going to help you to call the names here.
Names.
But just like you talked about social media, you would go back to social media and then you see a lot of them.
So that means there's some certain level of truth on social media. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, some level of truth. So you cannot invite them personally to come, because I'm not their spokesperson. You can invite them personally to come and say, tell us your experience.
Let me come to you, Honorable.
Working with Honorable Mudashiru Obasa.
Honorable Mojisola Miranda now as the speaker. You're still excited. What challenges do you see her facing as she begins to take on this role as speaker? Do you think her position as the first female speaker would it be easier? Would it be harder? What challenges?
I think she has the support of the GAC. She has the support of the members that voted her in. So I think it should be, but she should just be aware of the pitfall. Watch out.
What are these pitfalls?
It's like getting a little bit overconfident.
Okay.
And thinking, like Obasa was there, people don't really realize what really happened. Like 24 years now. He was voted in 6 times as member. And, you know, we are a human being, and when you get that kind of success, it might
6 times.
So those who have voted him in 6 times, they are practically still inside of the assembly, are they not?
I think it's the longest.
No, they voted him in as
member.
the representative for that local.
For me, he deservedly became the speaker because it was like the most.
If you've been there after 2 times.
The most.
So this was hierarchy,
That's
not necessarily
hierarchy is a major factor
in determining
legislative because that experience counts. Because you now know all the ways to go.
You can't be there for 10 years and not be experienced.
Say that out loud, please.
You can't be there for 10 years without.
You can be there for 20 years and not have any experience. The eyes have it. I support. And not have any experience. So it's not about how long you have been there.
It's how well.
Yes, it's how well. It's how well you have fed, how well you have performed.
For me personally, I'm from Agege, and I would say
his performance in Agege.
He did well for us in Agege. I'm not going to take that away from him.
Okay.
Because a lot of infrastructural development and all that came to Agege through his influence as the speaker. We thank him for that.
Mention.
We have the first cinema bridge, which was...
That was done by the government. It was done by somebody.
But he was one of those people that insisted...
Allegedly.
...that it should come. And when you go to Agege today, you see, especially in his ward, even beyond, the roads are well laid out. We have the
roads leading to Abulegba was somebody.
For sure, Abulegba is another. But you know, all these things have to be.
The road network is somebody.
And they have their influence. They have they influence what the executive does. It's just basic.
Okay.
So.
Honorable Brian, sometimes we give,
as far as I'm concerned,
we're giving credit to people for a job that
they
were assigned to do.
Yes,
sure. You didn't do anybody a favor.
You took the
but some people did not do it, even when they were voted in, and he did it. No, sincerely, I'm not.
You're in Agege, so I cannot speak for you.
I used to be a supporter of Obasa. Now I'm not. It's not about.
Why aren't you?
It's not about
when did that change?
You know, when you try to tell people
to
do what is right, in some other, I mean, you have to treat people fairly. You have to put the right people around you and all that. But if you're adamant and you think you know it all, this could be the end.
This is an unprecedented impeachment, an emergency session. Everyone said yay. I mean, not everyone, but
like that.
It took like this to get an impeachment. And both of you were former members of the opposition, PDP.
Yes.
And now you're members of the APC.
Yes.
You ran for the House. You also ran under the stables of the PDP.
Yes.
What message does this send to you both as new members of the...
For me, power is transient. For me, if you are elected into a position, thread carefully. Thread cautiously.
It took 27 years, though.
I just said thread carefully, thread cautiously. Thread carefully, thread cautiously, be accessible. That's key. It is pathetic that you're in a house, 40 members, 36, 34, signs to impeach you. Even those who didn't sign have signed now. A lot of them have signed. It is pathetic. That just tells you one thing. You had played the role of a mini-god. You had lost focus. You had put power on the driver's seat, and the power was driving you. So for me, as somebody who used to be in the opposition, tread carefully. Power is transient. You can lose it at any time. Governance must be doable and achievable to the electorate. Key.
Right. And lastly, I must say that, I mean, not lastly, but regarding the APC, right, Lagos is their stronghold.
True.
It's their stronghold. They are not shifting base anytime soon for what we've seen.
Obviously.
Do you think that this would have any, with Obasa's impeachment, would you think that they might lose loyals in Agege in that constituency? I'll come to you first, Mr. Honorable Rahim.
I think once the issue of the speaker, when the speaker eventually returns and he faces whatever he has to face, we will move to reconciliation. We have to realign, there will be this, there will be bickering, but then the party will move on. And I think the basis is strong enough to withstand any internal wranglings that will come.
Very quickly, Mazino, forgive me. With protesters in Agege, they were arrested, loyalists of Obasa in Agege, they were arrested when they tried to protest his impeachment. Do you think that that would also sway loyalty for the APC?
No, it won't. It won't, because the part that they want us to see is what we're seeing. We're just seeing a group of people. Agege is a large local government. And then we're seeing just a few people saying, oh, we agree. How many people came there? About 15, 20 people in the entire Agege. See, you go to the streets of Agege, there's jubilation. They're happy. For them, they're saying, wow, freedom at last. So nothing is going to affect the chances of APC in Agege or anywhere. That is not to say that Obasa doesn't have, you know, his loyalists amongst the excos and all of that. But do not forget, they were elected under the party flag. So they have a choice to pick whether their loyalty is to a person or to the party.
I'm very curious regarding the dynamics between the speaker, Obasa, at the time and the loyal or the people of Agege. You telling that there's jubilation in Agege?
Oh, there is jubilation on the street.
So I was wondering in what way exactly he touched the lives of the people. We had just discredited some certain projects where we thought that he might have... Are you sniggering?
I'm not doing it. No.
During COVID, they gave them bread.
No, but we were just... Say that again?
During COVID, they gave them bread.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
No, because I'm just going to speak on what I remember.
Yes, please, yes.
Yes,
Are there
I remember
any more?
the bread.
Are there any more?
No.
On how
They would know.
Wait,
Agege
I am
people.
from Agege.
Yes. And how did he touch the common man as speaker, with his position as speaker? I'm coming somewhere with that, but how did he touch the common man?
He empowered a lot of people.
Empowerment, okay.
Of course, and a lot of Agege residents and indigenous, they can
Attest.
they attest to that.
Now, let's come to Mojisola, the Honorable Speaker currently. How will she touch the lives of people now as the first female Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly?
If you look at Honorable Miranda's precedents in Apapa, she's doing very well.
What has she done? What have the people...
Oh, she's done a lot of things.
Apapa, if you... let's be careful about Apapa, because Apapa that's my territory. Apapa has suffered so far in the past 2 decades. People have left. Businesses have crashed.
People have sold
Nothing happens in Apapa. The Apapa Amusement Park was a must-see for every child growing up in the 80s and 90s. It's a ghost town. I don't think it even still exists.
Okay.
What did she do for Apapa?
Okay, thank you. Maybe I should start by saying that what is the role of a legislator? The role of a legislator is to ensure that you're making laws, that would be beneficial
of value to the people there.
To your people. Apapa is a very dynamic local government. It is a local government that has, like every tribe, and then majorly my people, the Hausas, are there, just like Agege. So, and it is like a commercial hub.
It is a commercial hub.
It is a commercial hub.
It is the commercial hub.
Yes, it's the commercial. So when you're dealing with places like that, sometimes you'll be working so hard, you know, to try to, this is the laws I'm trying to enact, and sometimes they're not even agreeing We see you in the house, and they say, oh, is he only a papa? Is he only this? Is he only that? But Mojisola, as a person, to her constituents, there are a lot of projects that she has done.
What are they?
Okay, I know that there was one time she sung boreholes. That might not be a big deal to you.
Oh, it is for people, definitely.
Yes, it is for
water
people.
is essential.
Water is essential. But that's why when I was asking my brother, oh, name some of the things you said he has done, because for me, I have only just contested, as a candidate, and I have sunk 23 boreholes in Ifako. So if you tell me a legislator does a thing like that, it's not a big deal to me. But for her, she has been able to, I know she has some children on scholarship. Mm-hmm. That's for me, is beautiful, because ensuring that you're sustaining education and letting every child have an opportunity to be educated is perfect.
So now, as speaker,
yes,
do you see more for a papa?
Oh,
and
yes,
also,
I see more.
Because I say a papa specifically because,
yes,
whether you like it or not, that is what
charity
brings in
begins
the
at
GDP
home
for Nigeria.
Yeah.
Whether you like it in some sort of way. A papa carries Nigeria.
Yeah. And this is the first time that papa is in the limelight.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, what would she do stemming from her past experience or her past endeavors that
like
Lagos
I've said to you,
benefit
Honorable Miranda is a dogged politician. She's a grassroots politician. She's not an elitist politician. That's where her root is from. So I trust that right now she would be meeting with stakeholders. She is meeting with stakeholders from her papa, telling her, well, this is what we want you to do. This is how to go about it. And I know that in the coming, weeks, she would be going around to look at the companies where, well, as this company is helping us to increase, this is what you can help us do. Mm-hmm. This is what you can help us do. So I see her doing a lot of consultations. Okay. I know she's up to the task.
Lady and gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for an exciting
my brain has been circling around Agege and bread. I just can't help it, like bringing bread to
Agege. That was what happened.
The center of Agege bread. That's it. You don't see the links? You don't get it. Okay.
Yeah. You have to give them bread because Agege bread has been a lifesaver from 1906.
I'm no, once they let it go. APC stalwart for Ifako Ajayi, none other than Honorable Fatima Mohammed Bashir, and also to my right here is Honorable Ni Rahim, is a APC member as well, and also a House of Representative candidate for Agege. Gentlemen, and lady, thank you so much for coming on.
Much. Thank you so much.
This is where we close the curtain here on this conversation. As Lagos navigates this new chapter, we'll continue to follow the story and its implication for governance and leadership in Nigeria's economic hub. Stay here, there's plenty more on the other side. Don't go anywhere. And you're welcome back. It has been 28 years since a tragic medical trial in Kano altered the lives of its victims forever. In 1996, global pharmaceutical giant Pfizer conducted a drug trial on Nigerian children testing the antibiotic Trovan during a deadly meningitis outbreak. While the company claimed the trial aimed to save lives, the consequences have left many victims and their families grappling with life-altering effects and unanswered questions about justice.
So this week, News Central hosted a groundbreaking town hall meeting in Kano, bringing together the victims, the community leaders, and also key stakeholders together to demand justice. Now, joining us today, we're going to be having our News Central correspondent, who was actually in Kano, and that's none other than Bernard Akede. Bernard, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Welcome back, by the way. We're hoping that the trip was easy for you. That's enough. That's enough. Bernard, first off, tell us first-hand information. What was it like meeting with the very people we have spoken so many times about here on News Central, meeting the victims, the families? What came to you first when you met these people at the town hall that happened on Thursday?
Honestly, first of all, I would like to say that meeting those people, honestly, not for the faint-hearted. Not for the faint-hearted at all. I met them firsthand, and I saw people who had, I don't know how best to explain this, permanent disabilities, right? People who the drug trial completely stunted their growth for some. The gentleman you're looking at on the screen that first came up is a 30-year-old completely deformed person because of those drug trials. That's the first individual you showed. His father, that's him right there. His father said he has been carrying him since the drug trials. He can hardly speak. The only clear things he can say is, "I'm hungry." And that's just one of several. And that's not even to mention those who passed away, who completely passed away. So it's this particular town hall series that we just concluded, or town hall story, if I put it that way, that we just concluded, is one that brought to the fore one of the huge challenges faced by a group of people in northern Nigeria, particularly in Kano, which many have either forgotten or even know nothing about. So again, to answer your question, it at some point nearly brought tears to my to my eyes, and I won't be surprised if there actually were people who did shed some tears just by watching what we did on Saturday.
During the, watching it as well, like you said, was just very touching. What was the moments that stood out for you during the events, whether from the victims, their families, or even other community members that were there?
First of all, I think what stood out for me was the fact that the victims did turn out. We had more than 500 people who came for this town hall event. Victims, family members, people who just came in solidarity with them, some government officials. There was a gentleman from National Human Rights Commission who actually came and said he has known at Kano State Division that he knows about, or he's known about this particular incident. He's known about things that happened in 1996, but he didn't realize that it was to this magnitude. And I assure you that there are many more people who also know about this particular story, but didn't realize how serious this was. So I think that really stood out for me. And then, of course, with the fact that the day before we met with the Commissioner for Information, and he was completely overwhelmed with the kind of community journalism, the kind of developmental journalism that News Central does. And he said he'll be willing to work with News Central anytime because of what we're doing. Same thing as the gentleman from the National Human Rights Commission. He says they need more agencies to do this for humanity, not just sensational broadcasting and journalism, but things that actually touch the lives of the people, particularly from the grassroots. And if anything, I think this particular story, this town hall that we did just a few days ago, actually did go to the grassroots to address a very, very serious pending issue. And I honestly do hope that it wasn't just all talk and they listened to us, that we, as I mentioned the other day, we would strike a chord somewhere, somehow, with someone that will bring this back up and decide that these people should definitely get the justice that they deserve.
Bernard, I want to talk about stakeholder representation. You talked about the fact that there might have been a couple of government representatives there at the town hall. So I'm also wondering, let's take this a bit further. Were there any representatives from the pharmaceutical company? Did they come? Did they show any, were there any actions from them in any way, shape or form?
Sadly, no. We didn't have any representatives from Pfizer. We were hoping that we would, because it would have been fantastic to hear from the side of the pharmaceutical company who was involved in all of this. We did send out letters, send out messages. We were seriously hoping that we would have, but unfortunately we didn't have any. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed, hoping that, again, that this particular town hall meeting would definitely has gone far and wide, and I'm hoping that we would get some response from them, sooner than later. But as at that day, and I believe up until now, to the best of my knowledge, no. Okay,
and then the representatives from the government, that's been the bone of contention all this while. In the past, it was told that 175,000 naira was given to each of the victims. Did we come to any conclusion regarding that fact? What happened to that money? How was the government involved? What was their, what was the comments or whatever it was from the representatives that were at the town hall?
$175,000, you mean? US
dollars, yes. My apologies.
Yes, we did. As a matter of fact, at some point during the town hall, we had to ask that those who received the documentation talking about the $175,000 to be received, if they had it there present with them, they should raise it up. You should have seen the numbers of persons who lifted that piece of paper documentation showing that it was clearly stated there they were to get the $175,000 US. But when eventually, we got to speak to them, the controversy there was that majority of them got just about $7,000. Those who their wards or their family members were affected by the drug trials got about $7,000 out of $175,000, which they claimed they're supposed to get. And even out of the $7,000, some of them claimed that some monies from that $7,000 was taken. Some said like $500, some $1,000. So even the $7,000, majority of them say it wasn't complete. Now, for those who who suffered fatalities or whose family members or wards suffered fatalities from that particular drug testing, They're supposed to get, more than $175,000. Some claim that they only got $2 million. There was a gentleman who said he was supposed to get, I think, about 10 million, if I'm not mistaken, or thereabouts. If you do the calculation, I went back, and I tried to do some calculation, finding out how much, what the exchange rate back then was, about 149 naira to a dollar or thereabout. I mean,
it would be much less, actually, Bernard. It will be much less than that.
At that time, and you'll see that what they got as to what they were supposed to receive was far, far different. And then if you now calculate the number of years between then and now, how much they've spent to take care of their children, how much they spent to take care of their wards who were affected, what they would have put into hospital bill, what would have possibly used, the producer got to put something in perspective. Please permit me to say this.
Go ahead.
Now, imagine these people you're seeing on your screen now who now have to live with wheelchairs, permanent disabilities. If they did get that money, change it into naira and see how many millions it would have been. Some of them would have been able to construct some kind of living condition that will suit their disability, that will suit the way their lives have now been forced to be. But for the fact that they didn't get that, a lot of things have been affected by their lives. Some of them said they got married and then they lost their marriages. Some of them could never get married. Some of them could not complete education. Some lost their businesses. It was a complete turnaround in the lives of these particular people. So yeah, not getting what they were supposed to receive changed everything for me, if you ask me.
I'm looking at a list of settlements by pharmaceutical companies, and I'm looking at the numbers of the payments that were made. I'm seeing $355 million US. I've seen $1.4 billion US. I've seen as far as $3 billion, and criminal, $1 billion for civil, completely different. $1 billion for criminal, $2 billion for civil, and this was just in 2012 alone. I also feel that the amount that was given, that was settled, was too small. I feel it was too small. I mean, it's a different conversation whether these individuals are actually going to get their payment, but also I feel that it is tiny compared to the lives that would continually live in this situation. And I think it's very indicative on, Pfizer, that they didn't see through to the end, that the victims and the sufferers of this, the aftermath of this, didn't get the bulk of the money of the $175,000 US that was awarded to them. And so it begs to ask the question about accountability and transparency. And I have to ask you, Bernard, for the sake of our viewers, who were the persons who handled this case, the law case, who was the governor during the period, who was the commissioner of health during the period, who represented the victims during this time?
So I think I'll quickly state that Pfizer did claim, first of all, that there's no wrongdoing from them, first of all, but then we know that they settled out of court. Now they claim that they made this payment, but that between them and between the money leaving their hands and getting to the victims, of course, there probably had been some differentials. There probably have been some kind of transparency issues, like you clearly stated, Judith. Now, the governor who was on seat as at the time when the drug trial happened, and then the governor who was on seat as at the time when the monies were being paid, the governor who was on seat as at the time when the case was raised, all different people, right? So of course, different commissioners as well. At some point, there was Alhaji Rabiu Kwankwaso, who was, I think he was the one who was on seat when the money was being paid or during the court case. So different individuals at different points in time. But I do want to state, like you clearly stated, that transparency basically was the major issue here, and has been the issue for several things that have been going on in Nigeria. The fact that we cannot clearly state who is responsible for what, who should have been responsible, and then if persons who were responsible are not brought to book, then there's a major problem. I think that's where the issue lies here. If Pfizer states that there was a certain amount of money, I'll break it down as well. You mentioned certain millions of dollars, billions of dollars in settlements in different cases. In this particular case, if my memory still serves me right, 70 million is what Pfizer said was put out there. Of the 70 million, 35 million was supposed to go entirely to the victims, while 30 million was supposed to go to the state government, because state government did also fight and push for this as at the time. And then the remaining 10 million was supposed to go for legal services, legal services as about the time. But breaking that down now, you come to see that, just as we clearly have come to find out from the town hall, the victims didn't get the bulk of the money that was supposed to come to them. So yes, coming back to you, Judith, transparency here is the major issue. And I think at this point, this case be dug up again, the several people who were in position to ensure that these monies were eventually moved from the hand of the pharmaceutical company to the final recipients, who are the victims or the family members of the victims in the case where the victims were deceased, unfortunately. Those persons who were involved and who did not ensure that this happened should be the ones that should be answering these questions, really. What exactly happened to this money? What happened to the chain of distribution from top to bottom entirely?
Bernard, while you were speaking, we did some calculations here, and I brought out my calculator. First of all, we found out exactly how much the naira to the dollar was in 1996, and it was actually 9 naira, 91 kobo. So that's close to what you said. Sorry, let me get that right. Yes, that's 99 naira, 9 kobo. So if you multiply that by 175,000 US dollars, you get 17,325,000 naira. Now, they didn't get that much. Let's remember that they actually got what was it again?
2 million.
Some of them got 7,000 naira. 7,000. Let's do that. 99 by 7,000. This is hoping that they got all 7,000. They got
2 million. Exactly.
No. This is going to really shock you. They got 693,000 naira.
And so there's one conversation about, one family getting 175,000 naira, which is meager compared to the lives that have been disrupted, futures that have been lost, and dreams and hopes dashed away.
Then there's another question another conversation. Who brokered that
deal? That's what I'm trying to get to.
Were they even represented? Did they come to tell why why they felt that amount was sufficient for a person who would live a life with permanent disability?
It is just insane.
Yeah. Were there discussions around this?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we didn't. If we did have representatives from Pfizer, we would probably have had answers to many of these questions. And I personally was looking forward to having one or two people from Pfizer come forward to explain some of these things. I mean, if Pfizer claims that this is the amount that they put out, then they should be able to have, they should have been able to come and defend that. If they claim that these were the amounts that should have gotten to the hands of the victims, they should have been able to come and defend that. I mean, just to clarify that, we had to ask the victims, if you have the documentation, please raise it up, let's see it. They put it up, and then my colleague Marshall, who conducted this investigation, who put the report together, first of all, went into the crowd one by one, with a microphone, asking questions, looking at those papers to be sure that what these victims are saying is true and confirmed. And yes, those papers were right there in their hands, and we saw them.
Bernard,
$75,000 written on them.
Bernard, regarding the government dispersing these funds to the people after the settlement was made, how exactly was it dispersed? What charges did they take from it? These are questions that the Kano State government also has to answer. I didn't see those answers, however, because if they were put in charge of having or giving these people these funds that were from the pharmaceutical company, how much exactly was given out? Do they have data? Do they have records regarding these payments? I think that would have clarified a lot of things.
Exactly, it clearly would have, and that's one of the the essence, one of the purpose of putting the town hall together, so that all parties involved will come and clear the air. Will come and state what involvement they had in this whole issue, how they were able to handle their own parts of the deal, how they were not able, and what the challenges were, if at all there were any, and what the way forward is, because these are still people whose lives are still hanging in the balance. So yeah, all your questions are valid, we're still hoping that people would come forward, people who are in power, people who are involved will come forward and state what their involvements were and how they were able to go forward with them or unable to go forward with them, and why the case is such. It still is an ongoing issue, to be honest. I mean, look at the numbers of people who turned out, people who are involved, people who are still hoping that they'll get some kind of restitution. And there's still some who claim that they never got anything. Let's also remember that, So it's sadly, in this case, I think this is where you see that there are more questions than answers.
I'm also looking at a statement on the Pfizer here from Pfizer. You can find this, and under it says that Under the terms of settlement with Kano State, Pfizer has agreed to establish a healthcare meningitis fund from which study participants can receive financial support. On the right, several healthcare initiatives chosen by the Kano State government that benefit the people of Kano State, totaling $30 million over a period of 2 years. And so I have to ask, did the, at least with any representative, whether stakeholders, government and or private sector that were during the town hall meeting, did they make mention of this healthcare/meningitis fund?
I don't think I remember anybody making mention of that, but that's another angle that we would have to investigate and confirm. It's a good point there, because definitely we know that the origin of this whole thing was the meningitis breakout that happened at that time of the year, and that year, I beg your pardon, and the number of persons that were affected by meningitis. So it would only be fair that some kind of meningitis program or settlement program actually would have been put together. If Pfizer claimed that they were going to do that, and if they actually eventually did do that, then it'll be something for us to investigate and to find out. I mean, it's still an ongoing conversation, so we definitely would continue to to see what we can dig up concerning this. We would ensure we'll find out about that and see how eventually that went.
And lastly, for the Ministry of Health for Kano State as well, what would be your call to action for them, for the lives of these victims and the lives of their families who are now stuck in the balance of all of this? What's your call to action for them?
Well, the current state governor of Kano is one who is concerned about the people. And even the Commissioner of Information did state that healthcare, education, are things that this current state government is really concerned about. So I think it would not be asking too much to say that these particular people who were directly affected by, these drug trials get some kind of health passage, when it comes to healthcare, get some kind of care and treatment. If the government can do it entirely free for them, ensure that while they are still alive, for as long as they are alive, they can get some kind of health passage, they can get some kind of treatment, particularly concerning the condition of their physical state and well-being, I don't think that will be asking too much. Just ensuring that these people who were poor victims of circumstance, simply because they were ill and needed some kind of treatment, unfortunately had their lives entirely changed. For those who are still alive, and I think it will not be asking too much that the government takes care of them, particularly health-wise. And for those who lost their loved ones, there's no amount of money you pay them that will bring them back, but at least their families too can be catered for by the state government. But of course, the bottom line is that there still has to be answers to all these questions that have been raised from the side of the government, from the side of the pharmaceutical company, from the side of everybody who was involved and who is still involved with this particular case.
Bernard, I want to say thank you very much for joining us this morning to give us your experience from Kano State at the Town Hall for News Central. It was very interesting to see you guys, very interesting to watch through it. And of course, we're expecting to hear more. So please do get some rest, get back to work, because there's no rest for the wicked. And according to HR, you're wickedly good.
Wait, what?
Okay,
I created that specially for you, for all the good work you do for us. Thank you very much, Bernard.
I take it. Thank you so much, Mazino. Thank you, Judy.
All right, so
thank you so much, Bernard.
Do stay tuned. We've got more coming your way, and hopefully none of these very cheesy remarks from you.
Yeah, you already started this.
We'll be back.
So wickedly good.
Hi, welcome back again. Let's turn our attention now to a pressing issue that has sparked concerns across Nigeria. ATM cash shortage. Simple. You experienced it, I did. But the Central Bank of Nigeria, the CBN, recently imposed fines totaling 1.35 billion naira on 9 commercial banks for their failure to dispense cash via ATMs. Now, this action comes amidst public frustration over persistent cash scarcity, particularly during peak periods when people need money the most, like Dirty December.
Finally, they're doing their work. So these fines are part of the CBN's effort to enforce financial institutions' compliance with service delivery standards, ensuring that Nigerians have consistent and reliable access to cash. But what do these penalties mean for the banking sector, the economy, and most importantly, the average Nigerian? And so to help us unpack this and answer these questions that we have, we're joined by Mukhtar Mohammed. He's the CEO of Finance with Mukhtar. I mean, Mukhtar, many thanks for joining us. And let me just say that I bought a kilo of chicken from a kiosk in the market, and I said, okay, can I do transfer? And she said, if I'm doing transfer, I have to add 50 naira.
Yeah.
I was in confusion because this was her account, and then she said, she goes on to say that there's no cash, and it's also part of bank maintenance or something. I don't know. So, Mukhtar, the CBN's decision to fine 9 banks 1.35 billion naira for failing to disperse cash via ATMs, it has been described as a bold move. Is it too late at this point after, what, 2-3 years of not being able to, I don't even know what ATMs, I don't even know how to operate it again, sorry.
You know, when people say it's a bold move, I tend to disagree because it's a bold move towards who? If those money were going to go to those people that they were not giving cash, that have lost a lot of money because of that, then that would have been a bold move. For you to say you made a bold move and those fines are going to be paid to CBN, I mean, I don't know how that has benefited the person that was going about from one point wasting his times until we begin to find banks based on what they have cost to their customers, and that money is paid to their customers before we begin to see banks change their attitude towards their customers. Like you just rightly pointed out, a lot of these things are, when they happen, they tend to increase cost of goods and services and in turn for inflation. And that's what they are not looking at yet. And sometimes the CBN battle inflation by doing this, by doing that. But there are things that are actually driving inflation that they are not really looking at. So that, for me, I don't think the fining of the banks is anything different. We've seen fines more than this before to banks. It has not achieved anything. Since these fines were done to the banks, how many ATMs still have cash? Then even you go across the counter, you can only get up to 20,000 naira across the counter. I keep saying Nigeria SME space, which is the informal sector, is largely driven by cash. And like you say, the market woman, you go there. And once they don't have cash, then you are killing that sector of the Nigerian economy. Unfortunately, that's what our leaders are doing, because they are not taking the bull by the horn. So you are finding the bank 1.3 billion. They have not changed their attitude. It's a 1.3 billion to this bank. It's just like a drop in an ocean. It doesn't mean anything. It's the banks that are washed with a lot of liquidity.
Okay, Mukhtar, let's take a look at the instance itself, the scarcity itself. There's no monies at these ATMs. Is it an operational flaw by the banks, or is it that they are also themselves experiencing cash scarcity? But if that's the case, then how come the POS operators always seem to have enough cash for me to borrow, or rather to take, but the banks never do? And the banks are supposed to be the one place where you get all the money you want in the world. So what exactly is it? Is it an operational flaw? Are they experiencing cash scarcity themselves? Or is this just something that profits them one way or the other to give it to POS operators instead of directly to the customers?
Well, systematic failure in the side, that's a systematic failure by the CBN also. And the last, what you just said lastly, is what also is happening. It favored them to give to POS operators. These are done by bank staff that are going to benefit from it. It's not necessarily done by the hierarchy of the banks, but this happens. And the hierarchy of the banks also are culpable. The CBN is culpable. We are talking about cash. We are not talking about dollar now. We are talking about naira that is actually in our own control. And you see, what that means is two things. When you say the bank are culpable, I've told you where the bank are culpable, maybe they are not able to deal with their staffs that are involved in all these fraudulent activities. Secondly, the CBN is culpable because they are the sole, when I use the word, the sole distributor of cash to most of these banks. So is it that they're not giving them enough cash, or they're giving them a cash? But again, when you look at the banks that can boldly tell you, you come into the banking hall, just take 20,000, that means the CBN is a no. And one of the tools that you use to control inflation is reduction of liquidity in the system. So that, for me, is part of the measure that the CBN are adapting, even if they're not coming out to say it publicly that, oh, we are trying to tame inflation, we tend to reduce liquidity so that we'll be able to control. Remember that when we are complaining that there's no cash, the CBN came up with a report that 4.1 trillion naira is in circulation. And you ask yourself, where is this 4.1 trillion naira that we are still experiencing cash scarcity? So there's a dysfunction between the CBN and the bank. But what I can deduce from it is that the CBN itself are the sole distributors of this currency to the bank. They need to answer the question before we now begin to ask the bank. Remember, there have been times where these officials of CBN have gone to bank, lock up those banks, see cash were there, but they were not ready to disperse it to customer based on what their manager told them. So it's all about the systematic failure in that the system itself is flawed. So everybody take advantage of it.
Mukhtar, I remember the glorious year of 2022 and the first quarter of 2023 leading to the election cycle for 2023. A wonderful time in the history of Nigeria.
And the Nigerian Naira.
And the Nigerian Naira. with the introduction of the new currencies.
Photocopy.
Okay,
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm professional, I promise, okay? I should not have laughed like that.
Sorry, go ahead.
You know, so introduction of the new currency, the redesign of the Naira at the time, and then the mopping up of the old Naira that we saw, and the fiasco and the chaos that happened. And during that time, the question was raised about the cashless policy that we were trying to achieve.
So is this
success?
You know,
so it's now, what is really the narrative? Are we trying to, curtail our liquidity so that we can somewhat snip our inflation, or are we throwing out, the cash shortage? What exactly is it with, our system, and where can we find a balance with a cashless policy that is still very much at the forefront, and trying to curtail inflation and also tackle cash shortages? You're the expert. Tell us.
To tackle, to answer that question, when you talk about how do we balance it, no economic in the world operate totally cashless. Even the best United States of America, the largest economy, then even China, you don't just operate cash, you don't do total cashless. It is not done anywhere. So you cannot achieve that. Even in the United States, if you go in there, you have cash, you are able to go to the bank, and as long as it's your cash, you can justify it. Then you have your cash. Nobody's going to stop you from using your cash. Even if they are going to advise you, to say, we advise you based on security reasons. That is one. Then secondly, infrastructure is key. If you want us to go cashless, then there must be the infrastructure. But you and I know that infrastructure is shorting. There's a shortage of infrastructure. And this is, I keep saying that if the CBN wants to go cashless, instead of fining the bank 1.3 billion, why not you also as the CBN come together and have a sharing to share infrastructure like what is done globally, where different banks come together to share infrastructure, so that there will not be all this network failure that we experience. So that's one thing that is making people not to have confidence in the system, because sometimes you put your card in the ATM, it says it dispense money, and yet you did not see the money. You go to the bank, you have to wait for 7 working days. And so there's a lot of those are administrative purposes. In developed economy of the world, even if you go and complain that somebody has actually taken your money, maybe fraudulently take your money from your account, the first thing the bank will do is to return that fund to you and then begin their investigation. But here in Nigeria, they will tell you to wait. That we have to investigate, we have to do that, we have to do that. It could even last for 1 month, 2 months. So those are part of why people are not so interested in doing cashless. So you need to begin to bring incentives. An incentive is where you are doing cashless, sometimes you pay so much fee. So a lot of people, that's why you see the market woman that you went to was telling you that, look, you have to pay 15, because she doesn't want to bear the cost of that fee, because that has also increased the cost of our goods and services. Rather, he will sell that good for you to pay that fee. So the balance should be, we build the infrastructure, then we don't make it like I said, it's not mandatory. You're talking about the POS terminals now. The POS were largely designed to meet short-term needs of 5,000, 20,000, and 50,000. How the POS has evolved to begin to give people 5 million, 6 million is appalling, and that shows that the regulators themselves are not up to their game. They need to up their game to monitor the POS operators. So it's a challenge, but again, the way out is build robust infrastructure, educate Nigerians, and then reduce those fees so that people can comfortably, and that by doing that, you are reducing the number of people you see in the bank, like what you see in developed nations of the world. So it's not something that cannot be done. It's something that cannot be done. But what we are seeing at this time is like you are forced to. So you say you must do it, and you don't have the infrastructure. So what it means is that a lot of us are trying to do the same thing at the same time, and it is failing because we have been forced to do that. So you don't force people with their money anywhere in the world. It is their money, it's not the proceeds from crime. It is their money. So they decide how they want to spend their money. So for me, the cashless policy, we have to thank the fintech companies. They've come in. A particular payment company seems to be the best that every small businesses want to use because of efficiency in terms of delivery of services.
Yeah.
So we need to begin to look at that.
But they've also blamed fintech as well for the proliferation of the POS operators as well. Yeah. They've blamed them and say that because of them, there's no cash in the ATMs, and there's now there's another economy on the side.
Let me ask you: do the CBN give cash to fintech operators?
No.
No.
Does the fintech operators have any bank?
Absolutely.
Do they have any POS terminal? So, when you are beginning to blame people that are even helping, because the fintech operators are linked to the account in the bank, you are not going to use them and then go to an ATM to withdraw cash. None of them have ATM and stand to be corrected. All you need to do is that you use your phone through a code, and then you do a transaction to the other person at the other end. Now, if the other person at the other end needs cash, he has to go to the POS. Whose fault is it? So for you to say, okay, you need cash, you're using my app, I should stop you and ask you, why do you need cash? You don't have to collect cash. Look, let's not deceive ourselves. You look at the rural area.
We run a very capitalist economy, you know what I mean? You find a problem, you solve it. If it's at the detriment of other people paying extra for, I paid 200 naira for 5,000. I'm buying in naira.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that in itself is an evolution of the way things are when it comes to our financial system inside of Nigeria. And I don't know whether to embrace it or to critique it. However, you said something during your submission there. You said that no country in the world operates with a cashless system. It is impossible, especially for one like Nigeria. So what are the broader implications of this in Nigeria here, a country that is absolutely cash dependent? What are we looking at happening if this persists?
You see, what is happening? What if this persists? All you need to look, like Juliana said, look back to 2022. Is it 2023, 2022? What happened during the cashless, the redesign of the naira? How the kind of chaos that was all over. That is what will happen. Secondly, you will kill one of the most vibrant sector of the Nigerian economy, which is the sector that employed Nigeria more, the informal sector. Because the informal sector is that market woman, that guy that have a barbering salon, the vulcanizer on the road, the mechanics. They are the largest employer of labor in Nigeria, those informal sector. And once you starve them of cash, you are killing them. And once you kill them, they will reduce their workforce. And what you have more unemployed Nigerians on the streets because their businesses are no more striving, because their business are largely driven by cash. So that is just basically what will happen. And again, by doing that, you are also putting more pressure on the bank, exposing a lot of citizens to security challenges. So the whole idea is, if the CBN have to midwife it, they have to midwife it. The bulk, as far as I'm concerned, stop at the table of the CBN.
So where do you stand? Do you say we embrace this new evolution, or that we stop it dead on its track?
No. Cashless has come to stay. Cashless has come to stay. There's no economy in the world that is completely, that you see cash being the highest form of transaction. Cashless has come to stay. But what I'm saying is that in the rural area, you have come up with a system, which is a POS system. And it's just to meet short-term need. You must also be able to monitor those POS, where POS terminals are now source of crime spot, where people go to withdraw money that they stole from people's account and transfer them, or where betting platform are now where you store people money. I think those all comes down to the regulators to begin to regulate all these things and put so that I will be excited to do cashless. I cannot do cashless. I do a transaction and I'm not getting delivery for that, and I go to the bank is telling me to wait for 7 working days. What if that's my last phone? Well, how do I do? What will now happen to me? So they need to come out and say something like I said, globally, especially in developed economy. Once you complain that, look, this is the issue, whether you are lying or whether you are saying the truth, you will be refunded and when investigation will not be done, and those investigations do not take forever, and they found out that you are culpable, you will be arrested and you have to pay. You have to pay the price for what you have done. So the justice system is there to work. So everything, if we really want to work, we need a system. The system will come with the judiciary. The system will come with the security agency. The system will come with the financial sector. The system will come with the CBN. Midwifing all these processes. Then you make it comfortable for us to say, look, I want to do cashless transaction. I'm from the comfort of my room. And I still say, if you want people to be interested in cashless, if I'm not taking the point to go to the bank, if I'm helping the CBN not to print so much money, remember CBN print this money, they pay. So I'm helping them to reduce costs. I'm helping the bank to reduce the number of people they have in their banking hall. You need to give me an incentive. I shouldn't be paying the kind of fee I'm paying.
Mukhtar, I must say that the last 2 times I needed cash, going to an ATM, just by chance it worked, was the most, it felt like a miracle. You know, it felt like I was back in 2009.
It felt like NEPA bringing lights.
You know what I mean? It felt like something went off in my brain. In fact, I couldn't operate it after some time, you know. And so this swift action by CBN, although a lot have argued that it's a bold move, some have said it's too late, and seeing that these 9 banks are now being fined 1.3 billion, we've now seen a wave with all the banks now working. I mean, 280, there's one bank next to my estate. I think I've never gotten money out of it in years.
I know the one.
And finally able to get cash. What it was, I didn't understand what was going on. In fact, when I saw somebody go out from the hall there with money, and I went in there and I got money, something went off in my head. And so it begs, so do you think that with that other banks will move, you know, swiftly? I mean, we've seen the swift move with other banks. And also, what lessons is there to learn for the banks and also for CBN when it comes to service delivery, the standard of service delivery that we need in safeguarding, you know, customer experience with our Nigerian banks?
I think the Nigerian banks have to wake up and begin to deliver services to their customers. That's all it means. What type of service I need to go in, like you said, it didn't used to be like this in 2010, 2000. I mean, even in 2020, before I think all this crisis started, during this redesign of the Naira. And we know why they were doing that, but now we have seen the whole reasons about it. So we have to go back to the basic, make funds available, especially during festivity period, especially during weekends. That was why the ATM came to be, because they want to serving people during the weekend, especially when you need cash. And they also evolved and have POS terminal before they came up with POS points. POS point was as a result from the rural areas whereby there's no banks very close. Some people have to travel like 5 to 6 kilometers. Some have to travel 10 kilometers to withdraw money, and the security challenges were there. So they created the POS terminals to be able to address this, which in itself is innovative. So what I would say is that the CBN must be famed with the bank to say, look, you have erred, you are fine, and then they should also think a way of compensating the people that have suffered as a result of their own inability to monitor this bank. Whether they say they have tried, whether they say they release cash, is their inability that is causing the pain that the people are going through. So they cannot be benefiting from their own pain, from their own ineffectiveness to monitor the banks. For me, that's where I stand.
I mean, Mukhtar, finally, you know, for just the sake of, you know, I said no.
The producers are asking us to round up, but it's so exciting.
You know, but they were very excited. And then let's also just talk about, you know, the CBN in and of itself and their job, really. And also when it comes to fintech as well, because fintech is a conversation that needs to be had. In them aiding aiding, you know, the financial system itself, they have provided very stellar, you know, services in there. What is CBN? Is CBN supposed to bring them onto the table? What is missing out in just pretty much achieving a somewhat of a hybrid cashless policy, you know, system?
I think the CBN has to bring them to the table. And again, you have to improve their infrastructure. It's an ongoing. Nigeria has a population of about 200 million. And sometimes you don't know, maybe you have up to 10% of this population at the same time thinking to withdraw money. So that means the back end will have a big challenge. So the challenge that we have mostly is the infrastructure. So they need to work on that infrastructure. The CBN need to begin to look at the fintech company and begin to, if you have to give license to fintech company, how variable are they? How liquid are they to improve their infrastructure? Again, the CBN also they've done well through the Ministry of Communication, NCC. And by talking to banks to pay off some of this fintech this company, because of those short code that they use, they are owing them over 2-point-something billion to about 200-something billion. That need to be resolved and resolved on time so that these people can be able to have fun to invest into newer and better technology. So the CBN is the midwife of all these things. He's the one who will communicate with the bank. He's the one who will communicate with the fintech company. Like I said, these fintech companies have no bank, and that is the way they are made to operate.
Mukhtar, I want to say thank you very much for a very exciting session here. And I feel much more educated, quite frankly. However, you did note something that I'm going to bring you on another segment to talk about, and that's the involvement of betting houses in the financial system. That's a big, broad topic, but we'll talk about that on another occasion. Thank you very much, Mukhtar.
My pleasure always to be on your program.
Always. Thank you. Now, we're going to be moving into perspective. So you're welcome. Now, this is where we bring you the views and voices that matter. And today we're diving into the topic that affects every one of us who handles cash, like we've just talked about, and that's the ATMs. With the increasing push towards digital banking, mobile payments, and cashless transactions, we're asking, when was the last time that you used the ATM? Judith here, yeah, well, you know.
Twice this week. Hallelujah.
Congratulations to you. In any case, for many, the ATM has been a go-to for withdrawing cash, but with modern banking innovations. How relevant is the ATM in today's fast-paced, mobile-friendly financial world? Not really much, is it? So we took to the streets to ask everyday Nigerians how often they use the ATMs and what their experiences have been like. So let's hear these let's hear these tales from everyday Nigerians.
Harrowing.
I'm not used to using ATM, like withdrawing money. I'm used to, maybe if I want to buy something, I'll just do transfer.
It's been like 3 years now since I last used an ATM machine. Most of the transactions I make require transfers, so I just pay with my card, so I haven't had the need for an ATM.
It made it frustrating for you to even use the ATM in the first place. I wrote a check, it's a checking account for 200,000, and they told me I can only get 20,000, that they have liquidity crunch. But the funny thing is, how do the POS guy get their cash? If our banks have cash flow issues, how comes the POS have cash?
Last month, and reason is because I needed cash ASAP to pay for something. Because there was no money in any of the machines, so I just had to look for available, means. POS, of course. Everybody knows POS. Because everywhere you look, your left, right, everywhere, they are just there. And they are like the lifesaver we have right now. It baffles me a lot too. I ask the same question. And gradually, you find out that the ATM machines are just there for no reason. People are not, you can't, when you walk in, there's no cash in there. And they are just there. For me, it's a total waste right now.
The last time I tried to use ATM was 3 days ago, and that ATM didn't even have cash. So what I ended up doing was to, with the following money, I went into the bank and I told the manager I need to get some cash out. And the manager was telling me that, oh, you can only get 500 for the whole week. So, and if you take that 500 out, it means no matter the problem you have that you need to solve with cash, you are not allowed to withdraw anything from that account. So until that week is over to the next week, I just feel it's unnecessary burden that the system is placing on us once again, because I think the banking sector, yes, some banks are trying, but they also, these are policies that they come up with, not considering the masses, not considering the average Nigerians that had to use cash to do their day-to-day business.
And you're welcome back. Let's tackle a disturbing trend that has claimed countless lives and eroded our communal values, the rise of ritual killings, and the Yahoo epidemic in Nigeria. Driven by an insatiable quest for wealth, these heinous crimes often target the most vulnerable, turning human life into a disposable commodity. Recent investigations have uncovered alarming connections between ritual killings and socio-economic factors such as unemployment, poverty, and societal pressure to achieve wealth at all cost. Our discussion today will focus on these chilling realities and the steps being taken to combat this scourge.
So joining also two distinguished guests, Caroline Popola, a leadership coach, SP Bright Adafe, the public relations officer of the Delta State Police. We'll be expecting that they'll join us soon. And also, I'm being told that we have joining us a anonymous repentant, let's use the quote, Yahoo guy, as it's normally put in plenty of texts. He'll be joining us, but he'll be staying anonymous, so we're expecting that you'd understand when we begin. That would be the format we'll be going with. So let's welcome, first off, Caroline Popola. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. A very interesting topic here that we'll be talking about today. First off, let's ask what your professional overview is on the instance, the prevailing instance we have here in Nigeria where people want to engage in these kinds of crimes.
Good morning to both of you, and thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here again, be it albeit virtually. It's so sad and it's so shocking. I mean, when things like this happen in a community, in a space, and a country, the whole community, this whole society is obviously, we're all shocked that how could we have raised this? Obviously, I will be coming in from an early years background. And it all boils down to, again, over and over again, I say this when it comes to early years childhood studies. It's shown that if we have good early year childhood studies and we have with a lot of parenting guideline, emotional stability, good environment, we're definitely meant to raise incredible young adults, sensible adults into the society. Don't get me wrong, while statistics have shown that 80 to 90% of children with good backgrounds would in early years and so on would definitely get to that height of being the good adults that we're looking at, you still have the small percentage. And this is where educators come in. But when we talk about educators, we're talking about including parents, not just the teachers, but first and foremost, they must know what they're doing. How do we address things like this at that young age that when they do grow up, they grow up to be that adult that would not, unfortunately, get into a state of a place like this? So we're talking about teaching children integrity, teaching children honesty, teaching children financial literacy. And it may sound like things we're talking about now, but you start from that young age. It's only when you start from that young age, you're guaranteed a sensible grown-up adult. And don't get me wrong, here you do have environmental, social environmental influences and all of that, and you have peer pressure and so on. But at the same time, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I wanted you to, round up your submission, because we also have another guest who's with us. He's going to stay here, asked to stay anonymous, but we're just going to refer to him as a repentant Yahoo guy or fraudster, so to speak.
Yeah.
Now, with the increasing cases of young men, young people that are now engaging in online fraudster, 419, Yahoo, pursuing get-rich-quick schemes, what do you think is driving this behavioral pattern that we're seeing? And it's now been normalized recently in our contemporary times.
Do you know what? If we don't teach children, if we don't teach people about delayed gratification, you want that thing of like get rich quick. You don't understand that delays are no denial. Or you teach children or people about financial literacy or the whole thing around resilience in terms of everything you do. And failure, it's normal. You normalize failure, that it's okay to fail. That's just another way of you learning how to do things differently. So all of those things we talk about, they're so relevant when it comes to raising children, young adults in the community. That's why people get into, I want to get it quick. What are their friends doing? I want to be like my friends. Who said you have to be like the Joneses? You don't have to be like the Joneses, but it's the teaching that we start with our children and you instill in them values. What are your values as a family? Have you discussed your values with your children? Do they know what you stand for? Do they understand honesty, excellence? That it's okay, because we have a lot now, it doesn't mean we don't have to spend it all. Delayed gratification, all of those things are so important when you're raising children.
Okay, so Caroline.
Yes, the economy has a lot to do with it.
So Caroline, you've drawn a very sharp relationship between early childhood education and also well, people choosing to go into these kinds of modes of attracting wealth later on in life. Now, is there something wrong with the system currently, the way we raise our kids here in Nigeria? Is that it? Does it need restructuring? I'm going to let you think about that. I'm being told that we have our other guest on with us right now. So while we're getting him prepared, well, I guess you can go ahead with answering that one.
Okay. Right. So because I want to come back to Nigeria and I want them to let me in.
Forgive me.
Across the world.
Forgive me, Ms. Popola, I must apologize. We're being informed that SP Bright Edafe, he's the Public Relations Officer of the Delta State Police Command, has now joined us. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this with us. And also with us is, of course, the person who has chosen to stay anonymous, none other than the repentant fraudster. We're going to keep the screen blacked out for his sake. Let me ask you, Mr. Anonymous, I have to ask you, your experience, what spurred you into, fraudster, Yahoo, and tell me about the lifestyle.
Okay, good morning to you, and thank you for having me on the show. Yeah, it all started back then. That was, let's say, a decade ago. So then it was not like this now. Then we see it like something, we can always earn money from. It was like fun. It was not something so serious to the extent of going into rituals. At some point, it was very easy. You just go on the internet, you just do one or two stuff, and you get what you want without thinking negatively. But it was not right though, because I see that traditionally our rulers have failed us. Religion have failed us. So besides this, some of the children lack proper home training. There are no integrity. The parent didn't speak integrity into their lives, no values. So, but now as we speak, it is something else. And also, I will not blame some of these boys who are doing this, because they lack proper home training. They didn't tell them at the early stage on what to do. And besides, they see some of their uncles that were rich, right? That they didn't even go into rituals. Then they had genuine money to help the family. So some of them, because of this depression or oppression, so they decide to
forgive me, Mr. Anonymous.
Please, are you listening?
Yes, I am. Mr. Anonymous, I wanted to ask you, was that your own story? Because you said at the time, 10 years ago, people entered it for fun, and it didn't get down to ritual killings in court or causing, murder or trying to go to any means to get rich quick, even if it means the lives of people in the balance. What spurred you? Was this your case? Was it wealth? Was it a desire to be wealthy? Was it family circumstances? Was it peer pressure, seeing your friends doing it, that you wanted to do it? And have you ever been pressured as well to be, or seen people around you who have been pressured to want to go the full length of committing crime? In terms of crime, I mean murder.
Yes, you just said something now. Then, sometimes it depends on the environment you find yourself. Sometimes the environment will influence you to do one or two for yourself. Yeah, it was not like a by force thing. We just see people do it, and we just felt, okay, this is what is happening. So let's just do it now. So what's there? So we just keep on doing this thing, and before you know it, we become exposed, to this internet stuff. And that is how it is. I really become, I was like almost a guru. I did things on my own without anybody. So I mean, it's funny these days, the way it is happening. I don't really understand the ritual stuff that is going on everywhere. I mean, I don't get it. Then it was not like, it's for fun. I see it was just for fun. We earn money, it was not like we were earning money to revenge. You know? We're earning and we're eating. We're going out, we're doing our stuff. We're even working. So, but now it's a serious business. People go into it for different reasons. I don't even understand the use of these days. They just spoil everything. So it's not like this, and it shouldn't be like this. So it's not something you want to tell me you want to make money from, and you want to bully everybody. It's
Very
like
interesting,
it shouldn't be,
Anonymous.
It shouldn't be done that way.
Okay, now, Anonymous, just give us a second here. Let's talk to SP Bright Adafe. SP Bright Adafe, thank you for joining us this morning. You have been in the eye of the media recently because of your numerous exposures on matters like these. I remember one where you told about a lady who had actually requested sums of money from her parents after visiting her boyfriend, and they now staged a kidnap plot. Now, does this narrative that our anonymous former fraudster does it key into most of the narratives you've heard from the people that you have arrested that have, perpetrated these kinds of crimes?
Okay, I listened to him with rapt attention, and everything he said is correct, except for the last part where he said it is for fun. I don't agree it is for fun. It is actually not for fun. You don't go into a crime that can springboard to ritual killing, drug abuse, cultism, even go as far as escalating to kidnapping, because it gets to a point where this money stopped coming. Like the boyfriend of that lady who paraded, you know, it's not everything we put out there. The boyfriend is a Yahoo boy, or a suspected Yahoo boy, who at that time was no longer getting money, and that was how the girl convinced him that let them tell the parent that she's been kidnapped so that they can get money. So you see, when they have gotten used to this luxurious lifestyle, they forget that there is no shortcut to success. So when the money stops coming, all that comes to their mind is make it at all costs. I have seen the ones who use the produce of Yahoo and buy AK-47 rifle. So what do they want to use the AK-47 rifle? It is to decorate their sitting room. So when he says it is for fun, I do not agree. But when he said yes, it leads to other crimes, which include ritual killing, is absolutely correct.
Right. And I've also been informed that our head of our chief bureau, the chief of our Abuja bureau, there we go, none other than Amadi Uyi, who has been on the story of Salome Adaidu, who was murdered in Abuja, also is joining us as well. Amadi, we must say thank you for being with us since 8 a.m. and down to this very hour. And before now, you were sharing the story of Salome and all that you uncovered during that time. Just a bit of refresher for the SP who's here, who's with us on this call, and also to the former fraudster, and also to our guest, Ms. Popola. Just a bit of recap for them.
Okay, we investigated the story of Salome when we saw it online. We tried to reach the family. We spoke to the sisters. She's from a family of 6, 5 girls and 1 boy. She's a 7 youth corper. It was from the family we heard that she was a family youth corper, and she was meant to pass out in March. And then we also tried to investigate circumstances surrounding her mother, investigate a profile on the profile of the alleged. I'll call him alleged ritual murderer, because it's been downplayed on social media that it was maybe a relationship that went bad. But from our investigations, we found out that the young man had no permanent girlfriend. He has been seen, he was always being seen with multiple girls at different occasions. He didn't have any friend. and then the story that he was murdered after they had an argument is totally false, because not only was she murdered, her body was dismembered, several parts of her body had been separated for food, so sort of like cannibalism. And then the morning when he was apprehended, he did not give himself up. He was going to deliver that head, the severed head of Salome, to an unknown person before the Okada, the motorbike which he had entered. The bike rider accosted him, and when he got to a populated area, he called on people to come and apprehend him. So there's been so much falsehood that she was his girlfriend and she was cheating on him, as he claimed in a subsequent video, which was not related or connected to our findings. We also heard that due to his behavior, he had been disowned by his parents for several years. The place he worked early this year on the 3rd of January, he had been sacked because of attitudinal issues, problems. He would not be corrected. He had breaches of certain conduct. So that these were the findings we uncovered about the young man.
Amadi, thank you for that. Your final remark there was, the last statement there was that he was sacked from his school that he was working at, a secondary school that he was working at, and it was a boarding facility where that it had female students, all right, girls, underage girls who were in boarding in the hostels, and he was sacked because of his behavior towards those girls. And so it begs to ask the question, I'm coming to you, Ms. Papalada, for this question, about educators, about our community, and also parents as well, and guardians, how they can also be, you advise to them to be on guard when it comes to underage girls and women. Now, I must say that I'm asking this question simply because everything we uncovered was that there were suspicions, there were suspicions about his behavior, but it had to boil down to somebody getting murdered before, you know, the authorities had to step in. Your take. Ms. Papalada.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, the end part of this conversation that the reporter, I've not even heard that at all. The fact that he actually worked in a school, that's serious. That's a safeguarding issue. How could you have someone like that around children, around young, vulnerable children? That's just unheard of. Again, it beckons the school needs to be investigated. What measures have you taken to investigate this, to check this guy out before you employed this guy into your into your school? That means you've had all the children, all the girls at risk. So the school needs to be investigated. What measures are taken? So, but if you heard what the alleged Yahoo guy said, the anonymous person, again, it boils down to what the parents are teaching. It boils down to the fact that peer pressure. It boils down to the fact that as a community, we're failing our children. We're failing our people. We are failing as a community. If you know right and you start to do right by the people around you, by your network around you, that will cascade into a bigger network. And gradually, this good values and honest peer pressure, conversation, resilience in teaching our children would literally go around the whole community. Our schools talking to our parents. We're not talking to our parents. If parents had not, so if we had known that this person, this young man, has been disowned by his parents as a result of whatever it is, the behavior, where he was employed would have known those history. What's his past history? What did they know about him before they employed him? So all of this stuff, and that could have, yes, it's so unfortunate that this young lady is gone, but it may have stopped it. We never know. It may have been caught earlier. So there's a lot to be done from the government downwards, but it starts with us. I say this every time I get the opportunity to come up. It starts with us. It starts with me and you now. We can't blame the government. It starts with us. We are the government.
Now, SP Adafe, I have to ask you, right? Martin is here as well on this conversation, and when he spoke to the family of Salome, they were talking about, thorough investigation and, bringing more, information as to what really happened with with their daughter, their sister, and their family, their loved one. Investigation. This is very heavy stuff we're talking about. The role of the police in thoroughly investigating this issue. Your answer, please.
Well, I am not the police public relations officer for Nasarawa State. However, I know the police will do due diligence, and in the end, everything that transpired during, before, and after will be unraveled. That I am very, very sure of, that justice will be served. You see, criminals are usually hardened, and they don't just talk from day one. If you watch his first interview, he said he did not regret killing his girlfriend. Later, he said he regrets. So you see that there are things that are coming up, and they will continue to come up. I believe after some time, in his own quiet time, he will reason and decide to open up to tell us why he did what he actually did. But I don't want to miss this opportunity to say one thing that I always say, and I think that's where there's a missing link. If you see a mother that has 2 daughters and 2 sons, you will agree with me that while they are growing up, if the sons disappear for 30 minutes and 1 hour, they will not look for him. He's a man, he can take care of himself. But if he's a girl, the mental alertness, the rate at which you train the girl child is top-notch. But why are we leaving the guys to go astray? Because we just assume that they will be okay, and they will not be okay. Now, this innocent girl has died because of a guy that was not properly raised. Saying they disown him, to me, that does not take the blame away from the parents, because we are a product of what we were given when we were growing up. I always tell people that a bride is a product of a family, is a product of a mother, a product of a father. I know how I was trained. When I was coming up, my father cannot come to work and catches me playing football. That's why till today I don't know how to play football. I'm not saying playing football is bad, but they taught us the kind of value that when you are supposed to be reading your book, you should be reading your book. When you are supposed to be in school, be in school. When you are supposed to be assisting your mom in the kitchen, assist your mom. There is time for everything. But when we miss it at the growing stage, it becomes a problem. Right now, we're in a menace, and I keep saying it. People may not like me for it. If you come to go to Lagos, come to Delta, go to Port Harcourt and some of these states around, hotel owners will tell you that they will not sell if Yahoo Boys does not patronize them. There was a time I issued a statement that the EFCC zonal coordinator also came to visit the CP. Hotel managers were calling me that why did I issue that kind of statement, that their hotels now are empty. So that's the problem. They will tell you, PRO, I beg, say if this guy is not patronized us, we will not sell. It is a problem. It is not just about the parents alone. We must come together, because these are supposed to be the leaders of tomorrow. As I am speaking with you, we have 2 cases of ritual killing that I'm here to bring out, because we want to gather out the fact. As I'm speaking with you, we have 2 cases of ritual killing. 2 weeks ago, we paraded another one where the boy's head was beheaded. What is giving birth to all this? It is Yahoo. There's nothing any person is going to tell me. And the annoying part is that this ritual of a thing does not really give them money. But they don't know. All these herbalists and native doctors, they're just taking advantage of their poor mentality. I'm trying to be mindful of the words I use here, but it's quite unfortunate. Our parents need to sit up. There was a time I had an interview, and the guy asked me, what do you think is the problem? And I gave him an instance. I said, let rapture come. Let God take away everybody on earth and leave 5 men and 5 women to come together. Then by the time they start giving birth to children and they all grow and Nigeria remain the way it is, who do you blame? He said it's the parents. And that's the truth. Parents, I'll attribute 90% of the blame to them, because parents form the family, parents form the community, they form the local government, they form the state, they form the country, and they form the entire society. So parents should take the blame.
SP, thank you very much for that submission there. I want to come to Anonymous and ask him a few questions regarding everything that you have heard, Anonymous. Now, you've heard from the SP, you've heard from Mrs. Popola. I'm wondering, do you feel that there was a time in your life where institutions might have failed you, and which institution was it? As at the time when you were practicing this, do you feel that perhaps it was family that failed you? Do you feel that it was education that failed you? Do you think it was society that failed you? Do you think it was religion that failed you? Because these are all aspects that our guests have touched on that make people resort to these kinds of behaviors. So for you, what was it that forced you into being a fraudster or a Yahoo guy? Was it family? Was it a failure of family, society, education, governance? What exactly was it for you? Anonymous.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah, to be honest, it was family. Yeah, it was family.
Family. Yeah. Now, let me come to Caroline Popola. Now, he has said family. This necessarily doesn't have to do with education or the education system itself. However, I do know that family have responsibilities when it comes to early education. So what restructuring is needed there?
Thank you so much. And I'm glad to hear the gentleman saying that. This is what we're talking about. We're so, I'm not sure, maybe when he was younger, his parents were very rich and all that stuff, and hence he got everything he wanted. But the society we're raising right now, are we teaching them about resilience, even values? And I said that earlier, you start from the basic, which is even conversations like that, about it's okay to fail, that it's normal to fail. It's normal not to get it right. Start with those conversations. So if I was gonna advise any parent right now, regardless of what age your child is, tell them, call them, have that conversation. Emotional support is like, what are you going through? I have a 16-year-old that I have a therapy for, but I work with children. But at the same time, doesn't mean I don't listen to him. I have to listen to him. I have to listen to what he's going through, because if you don't listen at home and you don't train them at home, they get the Yahoo boys that will train them. So what conversations are you having with your children? He's just said it. Family failed me. What conversations are you having with your children that would help them in their adulthood, that would deter them from getting into all of these other stuff that people are doing? You need to have those honest conversations with them. Whilst you're not accusing them, but you're telling them that these are the things that are going on. I'm here for you. If you're going through anything, I'm here for you. Be honest with ourselves. Even if a child goes to prison and is sentenced, you still remain the mother, or you still remain the father. You never disown them. They're still your children. So why don't you do the right thing and start with them now, before they get into this thing and other ears are listening to them? Because if you don't do the work at home, the society will do the work for you.
All right,
the peer pressures will get in and kick in and do the work for you. So put your head in. Okay. Family failed me.
Right. I mean, I must say thank you to everyone who joined us on this discussion. It's very well needed. This was needed. Many thanks to Mr. Anonymous, a former fraudster. Thank you to Caroline Popola. She's a leadership coach. Also, SP Bright Edafe, the public relations officer of the Delta State Police Command. And lastly, to our very own, the chief of Abuja Bureau for News Central Television, Amadi Nuyi, who has done a fantastic job making sure to bring the real truth and going behind the story. Thank you, gentlemen and lady.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
We're going to a short break. When we come back, we're switching gears to bring back more talks on the town hall meeting for the victims of the Pfizer trial drug Trovan. After the break, join us again. Welcome back. It's our final big story for today. It's a continuation of our conversation earlier from the 9 o'clock hour regarding News Central's town hall that was held in Kano, speaking to the victims and those who survived the Trovan trial drug by Pfizer during the meningitis outbreak in 1996. Following the compensation, the families claimed that they did not receive all of the compensation of $175,000 that was mandated to be paid to them by Pfizer. And so to continue the discussion today, we're joined by Nafisatu Kabir. She is the former Commissioner of Health, Kano State, and she joins us live via video all the way from Kano. And right here in the studio as well is our very own Marshal Onoye. He's an investigative journalist here with News Central Television, and he was the one who uncovered the victims, went on to the story and found the victims of this gruesome incident. I don't know the best words to describe it, the right adjective, but Marshal is here, and their lives are now in balance. Their lives have changed forever. Marshal, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. And well done, well done. You were also there during the town hall meeting. We're going to come to you, but first, let's start, ladies first, as always. Mrs. Kabir, I must say thank you so much for taking out the time to join us this morning, and good morning to you. Let me start by asking, you know, with the town hall meeting and listening to the stories of the victims and just how they've not been compensated and leaving 28 years after the effects and the consequences of a trial drug. What is the Kano State government taking from all of this?
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Now, presently, I don't know the situation pertaining these people, because it is handled by the state government and an organization they formed within themselves. So I am not very much aware of what is happening, but I can only talk about when this thing happened. So aftermath, I am not sure I can say anything.
All right. May I then ask, Madam, regarding when this whole thing happened and while you were serving as the Commissioner for Information, what kind of relationship did the Kano State government have with the victims? Because the stories that they tell is one of neglect and falsehood from the state government. Exactly, well, to be specific regarding the amounts that were paid to them and subtractions that were made for most of them not even getting up to a quarter of these sums. Who brokered these deals, and why are we hearing these stories from the victims from all those years back?
Thank you very much. Well, during the epidemic's time, we did all we could to control the spread of the disease. But what happened afterwards, we may not know, because I left that place after 1.5 years. So I cannot say much about that. But really, during that time, we had so many problems, but we were able to control the problems because the state government did all it could. The local government chairman, the traditional, the emirs, and the federal government at the highest level. Now, we invited some NGOs because we were not able to manage everything ourselves. So we tried to open up, and they came in to assist. That is how, in fact, these victims fell into what they are now.
That's very interesting.
Let's come back to the studio and talk to Marshal. Marshal, you were the one who uncovered the victims. You went on to Kano, you met with the victims, and you saw their lives, and we saw it important that we, give them a platform to share that story. What motivated you to dig deeper into, the plight of the victims?
Well, thank you very much, Judith. We've got several investigations on Kitty, and it wouldn't be like a motivation. We're always motivated to dig deeper into several of these cases. But I would say along the way, yes, we would gather momentum and gather more motivation to go by the time you get to find certain informations just at the beginning. At the first instance on arrival in Kano, for starters, I mean, you've got the story, it's everywhere. And when you read, you want to find out what went wrong. These persons, we hear a pocket of complaints about not getting their compensation, not getting the right amount, and then you want to find out, were they circumvented in one way or the other? Who were the persons that were given this money? Were they given the monies directly? And is Pfizer telling the truth about what it said it was going to give? These are just very few indices that will propel us to, go into an investigation to find out the truth. And then when you get in, you begin to find out other truths as well. Upon arrival in Kano State, we had uncovered 5 of those people, 3 of whom had said they had gotten some form of compensation. We try to say, when we ask them, were you among those that got compensated? They'll say, no, we're among those that got tipped. You know, and as I've had a few of them tell me to say, don't say compensation again, because that wasn't a compensation, we were only tipped. You know, they said it in Hausa. So you'd find, again, the state of health of these people, you know, quite deplorable. I mean, at the time when the epidemic happened, they were just babies, and then their deformities had just began to creep in. And now that they are fully grown adults, you can now see the level of the extent of their deformities, and it will really want to, you know, motivate you to do more for them.
Right. Now, we've heard from Mrs. Kabir and, you know, her response regarding, you know, the state government. I want you to take off your hat as a journalist, investigative journalist, and put on your hat as a concerned citizen who was at the town hall meeting. Her response with the state government, is that enough?
Well, you see, her office was a political office. I mean, at the time, I can quite relate with an epidemic, you know, and the quest for the government to look for solution and bring solution to these persons. But I would not understand how they wouldn't ensure that certain measures are in place to see that the right thing is done. For instance, was there a certificate for the approval for this medication from its port of origin, or the place where it originated from, the United States? We would have expected that certain checks would have been done regarding the persons that were coming to administer this medication, and then the medication itself. They would have had a medical team that would have vetted these persons and their procedure. At the time, we had Medicine Sans Frontiers, Doctors Without Borders, also administering medication for meningitis, which was the outbreak at that time. And guess what? None of these, or they might have had few cases, but they didn't have the kind of case that the Pfizer, those that took the Pfizer medication had. The Doctors Without Borders all turned out fine. The patients all turned out fine. They had them at another building just within the same vicinity, you know, administering this medication to children.
That's very
as well.
sad for the parents, because noting that it came down to choice for you to choose which hospital to go to, and that's what has altered the lives of your
Same
kids.
hospital, just different blocks.
Just different blocks. I mean, that I can imagine the impact on the parents. But then, let me talk to the former commissioner for information regarding, you said something regarding the fact that the Kano state government at the time had called out to NGOs to come help with the state of the epidemic that was going on, the meningitis epidemic. My question is this, and it goes, Marshall is here in the studio, I'd like him to also give his own answer. How culpable is the Kano state government when it comes to this? Because they actually reached out to these NGOs and these pharmaceutical companies, and now this has happened. So when it comes to compensation or a responsibility, how responsible are they for the outcome of the lives of these victims? Madam.
Well, thank you very much. The federal government has a department in the ministry, in the health ministry, called Epidemic Control Department. They are the people responsible for the registration of these NGOs that come through, that come to Nigeria to assist, or Kano State to assist. Then back to Kano. When they come to Kano, there's also a team that is supposed to supervise them, the drugs they brought, and everything before they are allowed to be used in our hospitals. So now it is not just coming in to assist, like you have said, that they are just coming in. They have been registered and they have been supervised and they have been allowed before everything happened. So now I think the victims too, through their association, I could remember I had something like that because I was not aware when the association was formed, when the team was formed, and they said that they are supposed to see, they wanted to see the registration of these NGOs, and they were given all details from the Ministry of Health. I was not the commissioner then, it was another person.
Okay.
So now this is only what I can say.
Okay, madam, that would be good. That's enough. Thank you very much.
And Marshall, just to wrap up this our conversation, what does it say about due diligence Unfortunately, you cannot take that question. There we go. We're
We
out
are
of time.
out
Out of time. But I was going to ask
unfortunately,
about, you know, our government and when it comes to due diligence and transparency and accountability.
We're bringing more on News Central so they can stay tuned.
Yeah, so of course we're going to have that conversation. And when it comes to due diligence, do they do it enough? It's one thing to call for help, but it's another to do your due diligence and accepting others. Mrs. Nafisatu Kabir, representative, a former official there for Kano State Government, and also here in the studio, Marsha Onoye, who is our investigative journalist for News Central Television, who helped to uncover the victims and bring their story to fore. Thank you once again for coming on. I appreciate you for doing this. This is where we close the curtains for today's broadcast.
Yes, indeed. It's only halfway through, however, because we have another installment for Sunday come tomorrow. So join us at, when do we start again?
It's 8 o'clock.
It's actually 6 o'clock, because that's how we get here. But join us at 8 o'clock. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a Sunday edition. Bye-bye.
Bye.